McLaren have found themselves closer than they'll ever be in the Constructors' Championship behind Verstappen, with just an 8-point margin between these two teams. But with the ultimate prize being the drivers' category, the team might have to resort to some team orders if they want to see one of their drivers snatch the 4th championship from Verstappen's hands. Considering the fact that Norris is closer, it would be logical for the team to prefer him in the next 8 races. But with Piastri proving himself to be a tough nut to crack, is this the perfect scenario for intra-team battles? And more importantly, will the toxic environment from 2007 return to McLaren? It goes without saying that McLaren has made one of the greatest strides in both of the championships, and had their tactics been correct on multiple occasions throughout the first 16 races of the season, the gap between Verstappen and Norris would have likely been around the 30 or 40 point mark, not the 62 that it is right now. But even though Norris was able to shed down 16 points from the Dutchman in the first 2 races after the summer break, it could have been a lot more if Piastri didn't race him as hard in turn 4 in Imola, which forced Norris to brake very hard and lose the position to Leclerc. Of course, all of this is legitimate because you can't sign a driver like Piastri and expect him to be the number 2 driver because he didn't win Formula Renault F3 and F2 due to being a good teammate. But this is exactly the environment that you need in order to create a toxicity between the drivers that will definitely cost you the Drivers' Championship. Paradoxically enough, Verstappen needs to thank this development of events, because even though both of the McLaren drivers are finishing ahead of him much more frequently now, Piastri is taking away points from Norris, and with how Monza developed, Norris lost 10 points in just one corner, which weren't guaranteed anyways, as the one stopper for Leclerc worked wonders and it wasn't the preferred tactic for McLaren. But be that as it may, the rivalry between Piastri and Norris won't be simmering down anytime soon, and this is where the team would have to make a radical step. The first problems have already started to come to the surface because Zach Brown and Andrea Stella have different opinions on team orders and whether or not they should implement them in the remainder of the season. When talking about this, Stella said, "We have not to acknowledge that not only the Constructors' Championship is possible, but with the performance we have at the moment in the car and some of the struggle we see with Red Bull, even the drivers is definitely possible. If we can achieve both, we need to put the team and Lando in position to pursue both championships. Both drivers are mathematically in condition to do so, but Lando is in the best position from a numbers point of view, and we are fighting Verstappen. If we want to give support to one driver, we have to pick the one in best position. So if we are going to achieve both as a team, we need to put the team in condition and Lando in condition to pursue both championships." Lando Norris, however, does seem very calm about this whole situation, and he just doesn't let the pressure get to him, because even though he was forced to give his position back to Piastri in Hungary, he doesn't want the team to do the same when he is the one who should be benefiting a lot from it. When talking about this, the Brit said, "The papaya rules mean just don't crash. That's all." And yeah, there was no contact, so Piastri did a good job. I would love it if McLaren intervened to swap the positions, but it's not up to me. It's tough because obviously I think as any driver, you don't want team orders. You don't want things to just be played that way. And yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, I wouldn't say we are running out of time, but time is going away slowly. I still believe we can catch Verstappen. I still believe we probably had close to, if not the best car today in Monza. So I don't know. It's not for me to decide. It's for the team. But I think we are still working together well, and we're still helping one another. And I think that showed plenty of times this year that we're very happy with the results we're getting. The best way is just to win the race, and I didn't do that in Monza because of some silly things. So yeah, this is for the team, not for me. But again, it was logical for McLaren to understand that whenever Piastri had the opportunity to race, the team would let him do so fair and square. And one of the primary reasons why this might be the case is because of the Aussies manager, Mark Webber. Mark was the infamous teammate that Sebastian Vettel had during the glory days of Red Bull from 2010 to 2013. And we all knew how much he hated being the number 2 driver and constantly had to get out of the way. In some situations, even the team orders went to the extent of Red Bull ordering Vettel to not pass him, like in Malaysia 2013, but the German driver refused them, and continued with his own race, which ended up with a race win of his own. Therefore, it's very likely that Webber has pursued a clause in Piastri's contract that doesn't mention anything about a number 1 or number 2 driver in McLaren, which is something that Zak Brown accepted and is constantly saying that there is no division between the current lineup as they are free to race under the papaya rules, something that caught a lot of attention after the Monza GP. Right now, there are 8 races remaining, and for Norris to win the championship in the drivers category, he'd have to outscore Verstappen by around 8 points per race. This is a scenario that excludes the 3 sprint races that could also boost the hope of the Brit, who is now headed into 2 races that should see him maximising the efforts of the MCL 38 compared to the RB20 due to the nature of the tracks that Baku and Singapore have. So whether or not Piastri would further hinder this process of taking the championship away from Verstappen, time will tell. But one thing is for sure, he is not here to respect any team orders unless they come in a full and effective form, which might be forbidden in his contract with the team. Zak Brown, unlike Stella, doesn't agree that team orders would work in his team, and even though the team effectively stole 7 points from Norris in Hungary due to no fault of the Brit driver, it was a team order that he listened to. We didn't see the same energy in Monza, where Piastri could have let Norris by and give him 3 more points in the championship because he is not fighting for the win with Leclerc anymore. And as Will Buxton said, if you want to attack the drivers' championship, you have to be ruthless and accept that in this situation your best shot is Norris. This might not be the case next year, but in 2024, if McLaren gets to have a sniff at the drivers' championship fight, the only solution can be found in Norris, and they need to have a serious talk with Oscar as to where the priorities of the team stand now that the constructors is more or less theirs to lose. Elaborating on this situation, Brown's view is a bit controversial, as he went on to say, they are both young drivers who want to win. We have always believed in having 2 number 1s. That's always been McLaren's way. It can be difficult to manage. We've seen it with Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost. They get along great. They do race each other clean, and it's philosophical. Are you a 1-car team or a 2-car team? The easiest thing would have been for Lando to just run away with it and then not have to put difficult decisions on pit wall, but Stella and I are taking it 1 race at a time. To be fair, Lando did run away at it in Hungary despite bottling the start, but having the strategy work out perfectly for him, and he had no right giving that lead back to Piastri in the later stages of the race. But obviously McLaren weren't that serious about the Drivers' Championship back then as they are right now. The fact that it took them by Zandvoort to realise that they can fight with Verstappen might be something that will haunt them after the rest of the season, especially if Verstappen wins the championship by a margin smaller than 7 points. And the team said to Norris that he will need Piastri in his quest for the Drivers' Championship, but on the 2 occasions that Piastri was able to help him, Zandvoort and Monza, all he did was either give extra points to Verstappen or take away points from Norris. In the Netherlands, Piastri being stuck behind Leclerc was the pivotal move that enabled Verstappen to have a solid P2 finish. Otherwise, this spot would have been in massive danger, whereas we all saw what happened in Monza between the papaya drivers and the hard racing that Piastri presented in turn 4. With all this in mind, do you think that Piastri will prove to be a massive challenge for Norris Championship, despite the Aussie being the 4th driver in the Drivers' Championship? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.